The storm tore across the open plains like a living thing when Cole Maddox heard the sharp pounding at his door. It was well past midnight, and out in that forgotten stretch of territory, no one came calling at that hour without a damn good reason. He set his steaming coffee aside and rose to his feet, slow and steady, but every nerve in him was wide awake. He lived alone in that broad wooden house, surrounded by fertile land and cattle, yet empty of any real company. At 32, folks across the county knew him as the loneliest man around. When he pulled the door open, the wind nearly ripped it from his grip. Out in the downpour stood a woman, clinging hard to the reins of a horse barely able to stand. Her face, soaked, exhausted, and full of fear, lifted toward him, searching his eyes. "Please, I need help," she begged, her accent unmistakable. "My horse is hurt, and I've got men after me." Cole didn't hesitate. "Get inside, now," he ordered, bracing the door against the wind. She crossed the threshold, and he helped guide the struggling horse into the nearby stable. The woman trembled, not just from the cold, but from something deeper, something that made the storm seem like the least of her troubles. "My name is Ayanna," she said, her voice breaking as Cole checked the horse's leg. "I've been running from a town east of here." "Black Spurs?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "They tried to force me into marrying their leader. I refused. They tried to take me anyway. I barely got away." "And now they're hunting you," Cole finished, already understanding the weight of it. The horse's injury was bad, no question about it. "It won't heal in less than a week," he said flatly. "You're not going anywhere tomorrow." Ayanna clenched her fists. She couldn't have been more than 26, and despite the fear in her, her dark eyes still burned with defiance. "I've got nowhere left," she admitted. "I left my people years ago, looking for something else. Now I've got no tribe, no home, no family." Cole studied her quietly. He knew that kind of loneliness. Hell, he'd been carrying it himself for years. "You can stay here tonight," he said firmly. "We'll figure the rest out come morning." He gave her dry clothes, a hot meal, and the spare room. While she slept, he stayed by the window in the dim light, watching the rain die off. He knew men like the Black Spurs didn't quit easy. If they were serious about finding her, they'd hit the nearest town, and sooner or later, someone would point them toward Cole Maddox's ranch. By morning, the sun shone like the storm had never been there. Cole was pouring coffee when he heard soft footsteps coming down the stairs. Ayanna appeared, her hair tied back, dressed in simple but clean clothes. "Thank you for your kindness," she said, standing tall in the middle of the room. "I'll leave as soon as my horse can stand." Cole cleared his throat. "I did some thinking last night. If those men are looking for you, they'll start asking questions in town. This ranch is the best-known place around here. Chances are, they'll end up here." Ayanna's face went pale. "Then I need to leave today. I won't bring trouble to your door." "Hold on," he said, lifting a hand. "I've got an idea. It ain't exactly common, but it might work." She looked at him with suspicion, and just a flicker of curiosity. "If I introduce you as my wife, the law protects you. No man can lay claim to what already belongs to another, not without consequences." Her expression shifted from surprise to doubt. "You're suggesting we pretend to be married?" "Not pretend," Cole said, his voice low and steady. "A fake marriage falls apart too easy, and could land us in worse trouble. But if it's real, no one can question it. If we marry for real, it's legal, solid, untouchable." Ayanna took a step back, stunned. "Are you out of your mind? Marry a stranger just to protect her?" Cole shrugged, gesturing around the house. "Take a good look, Ayanna. I've got land, cattle, more than enough to live on. And I'm still alone. No wife, no family, just a man rattling around in a big empty place." He paused, then added quietly, You need a home. A safe place those men can't reach. She walked slowly to the window. The desert stretched endlessly outside, glowing under the morning light. Her mind was racing, weighing every possibility. "This is crazy," she murmured. "Maybe," Cole admitted, "but it's the kind of crazy that might save your life, and maybe give me something more than this silence." She turned back to him. For a long moment, neither spoke. In his eyes, she saw no hunger, no hidden motive, just honesty, and a loneliness that mirrored her own. "If we do this," she said at last, "it's an arrangement. You have a house, but no wife. I need a home, but I have none. That makes it fair." Cole nodded slowly. "Fair, but there'll be conditions." She lifted her chin. "I'll cook, keep the house, help on the ranch. I won't be a burden. I'll earn my place." "Wouldn't expect anything less," he said with a faint smile. "And when would this happen?" she asked, still trying to grasp the weight of it all. "The judge rides into town every Friday," Cole replied. "We've got 3 days to think it over. If you change your mind, I'll understand." He met her gaze firmly. "But if we go through with it, it's a real marriage. No lies, no games." Ayanna extended her hand. 3 days. Cole took it, feeling the strength in her grip. In that moment, neither of them could have guessed that this simple agreement between two lonely souls would change their lives forever. As the sun climbed higher over the desert, they began to understand that sometimes the most unexpected answers come in the darkest hours. And fate has a strange way of binding together those who need each other most, long before they even realize it, needed each other long before they even knew it themselves. The choice had been made, but the real road was only just beginning. Those 3 days slipped by like a held breath, heavy with tension. Cole Maddox and Ayanna moved through the house like strangers learning the shape of each other's presence. She spent her time cooking. Flatbread, stews rich with spice, filling the air with warmth. He kept busy fixing fences, tending cattle, working the land like he always had. At night, they sat across from each other by the fire. Words were scarce, but their eyes did most of the talking. Cole found himself watching the way Ayanna's hands moved when she spoke about her childhood among the Red Sky people. And Ayanna noticed how he handled animals, with patience, with quiet care, never a trace of cruelty. On Thursday night, the eve before the judge's arrival, Cole found her out on the porch, staring up at the stars. "You made your decision yet?" he asked, keeping a respectful distance. She didn't answer right away. "I've been thinking about something you said," she murmured at last. "You have a house, but no wife. I've got strength, skills, but no home. Seems like this arrangement makes sense." Something shifted inside Cole. Relief, maybe even hope, though he couldn't quite name it. "Then tomorrow we head into town," he said firmly. "But there's something you need to know." She turned to face him. "Those men chasing you, their leader's name is Silas Kane. He's got power, connections. He won't let this go easy." "I figured as much," Cole replied, stepping closer. "That's why this marriage has to be real. Papers, witnesses, everything done right." His voice was steady, his eyes locked on hers. "Once it's legal, not even Silas Kane can touch you without answering to the law." "And if he still tries?" Ayanna asked, her voice trembling just slightly. "Then we face him together," Cole said without hesitation. "You're not alone anymore, Ayanna." Those words hit deeper than she expected. No one had said that to her in years, and meant it. Friday morning broke clear and calm. Cole had the wagon ready at first light, and they both dressed in their best. Ayanna chose a simple sky blue dress. Nothing fancy, but it fit her like it had been made just for her. Cole had found it tucked away in an old chest that once belonged to Mary Maddox, and when she put it on, something about it felt right, The ride into town took a couple of hours. They spoke little, but what mattered got said. "How do we tell our story?" Ayanna asked. "You came through looking for work," Cole answered. "Stayed on for a while. We got to know each other, and decided not to wait. And if they ask why so fast? Then we tell them half the truth," he said. "Out here, when you find the right person, waiting don't make much sense." As they rolled into town, Cole felt something tighten in his gut. Outside the general store, 3 unfamiliar men were asking questions. One of them held up what looked like a sketch or written description. Ayanna saw them too, and went pale. "It's them," she whispered. Cole took her hand firmly. "Stay calm. In less than an hour, you'll be my wife, legal and binding. Nobody's laying a hand on you." Without wasting time, they headed straight for the judge's office. Judge Elias Rook, an older man with a calm voice and steady presence, had known Cole for years. "Cole Maddox? What brings you in this early?" the judge asked with mild curiosity. "I'm here to get married, Judge," Cole said, not letting go of Ayanna's hand. The judge raised his brows, genuinely surprised. "Married? Never heard you mention a woman before." "Things moved fast," Cole replied plainly. "This is Ayanna. We met a while back, and decided there's no reason to wait." Judge Rook studied her kindly. "Miss, you're here of your own free will. No one's forcing this?" Ayanna lifted her chin. "I'm here because I choose to be. Cole Maddox is a good man." "Well now," the judge smiled faintly. "Unusual, sure, but nothing unlawful about it. I'll need 2 witnesses." Cole glanced out the window and spotted Wyatt Boone and Hank Cutter stepping out of the bakery. "Good people, trustworthy, they'll do." "Excellent choice," the judge nodded. 15 minutes later, both men stood inside the office, surprised but honored to be part of it. Wyatt even looked close to tearing up at the sight. Judge Elias Rook opened his ledger and began the ceremony with quiet authority. "Cole Maddox, do you take Ayanna as your lawful wife to protect and respect her all the days of your life?" Cole looked into her eyes. In that moment, what had started as an arrangement suddenly carried real weight. "I do." "I do. Ayanna, do you take Cole Maddox as your lawful husband to stand by him and support him all the days of your life?" She swallowed hard. This man had taken her in without knowing her name, had given her shelter without asking for anything in return. "I do," she said, her voice steady and clear. "Then, by the authority vested in me by this territory," the judge declared, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." He looked at Cole. "You may kiss your wife." There was a brief pause. They hadn't spoken about that part. Still, Cole leaned in gently and pressed a soft, respectful kiss to her forehead. Ayanna closed her eyes. A warmth spread through her chest. Unexpected, but real. Wyatt Boone clapped with genuine joy, and Hank Cutter gave Cole a firm slap on the back. Judge Elias Rook pointed them toward the registry. They signed without hesitation. It was done. Official. Binding. They were married under the law. As they stepped outside, Cole carefully tucked the certificate into his coat pocket. But they had barely made it onto the street when one of the cane riders approached. "Excuse me, sir," the man said, his tone forced. "You seen a long-haired Apache woman traveling alone?" Cole slipped an arm calmly around Ayanna's shoulders. "Haven't seen any woman traveling alone," he replied evenly. "This here is my wife, Ayanna Maddox. We just got married." He didn't waver. Not for a second. The man studied her with suspicion. But Ayanna didn't flinch. She stood firm beside Cole, her presence saying just as clearly as his words, "I belong here." "Congratulations," the stranger muttered, though there was no warmth in it. Then he turned and walked off. But Cole knew better. That wasn't the end. Not even close. We need to head back to the ranch, he murmured to Ayanna as they moved toward the wagon. The ride home passed in near silence. It wasn't uncomfortable, just heavy. The weight of what they'd done settled over them slowly, like dust after a storm. There was no turning back now. They were husband and wife. For real. By the time they reached the ranch, the sun was sinking behind the hills. Ayanna stepped down from the wagon and paused, taking in the house, the land, the life that now, legally, belonged to her too. Mrs. Maddox, Cole said with a half-smile, hat in hand. Mr. Maddox, she answered softly, returning the smile, though something tight lingered in her chest. Not quite fear. Not quite something else. They walked inside together, unaware that from the shadows along the ridge, someone was watching. Silas Kane hadn't gone anywhere. He was just waiting. Their first week as husband and wife passed in a strange kind of harmony. They didn't share a room. Cole stayed in his, Ayanna in the guest room. They spoke little, but worked side by side like they'd been doing it for years. Ayanna proved herself quickly. She knew the desert, every plant, which could heal and which could kill. She taught Cole how to track faint footprints, how to read the ground, how to listen to the land and the animals the way the red sky people had taught her. In return, he showed her how to move cattle without stress, how to mend fences, how to bring old tools back to life. They didn't need many words. They understood each other just fine. One afternoon, while repairing a stretch of fence on the north side, Cole narrowed his eyes toward the horizon. "There's dust coming up the road," he said quietly. "Stay sharp." Ayanna dropped the hammer from her hand. Her body reacted before her thoughts caught up. Danger. "Get inside," Cole ordered without looking at her. "Grab the marriage certificate, top drawer of the desk." She didn't argue, just ran. Cole stayed where he was, boots planted firm, eyes locked on the rising cloud of dust. 3 riders, and when they got close enough, he recognized the one in front. Silas Kane. Dressed in dark clothes, wide-brimmed hat, and a look that carried both arrogance and threat in equal measure. 2 hard-faced men rode behind him, silent as wolves. "Cole Maddox?" Kane called as he pulled his horse to a stop. "That's right," Cole answered, not moving an inch. "What do you want?" Kane dismounted slowly, his eyes sweeping over the ranch like a man pricing something he intended to own. "Nice place," he said with a crooked smile. "Heard you got married. Congratulations." "Appreciate it," Cole replied, arms crossing over his chest. "But I doubt you rode all this way just to say that?" "But I doubt you rode all this way just to offer congratulations." "You're right," Silas Kane replied, his smile sharpening into something colder. "I'm looking for a woman. She belongs to me. Apache girl. Goes by Ayanna. She took something valuable from me. Her promise to marry." Cole didn't blink. "No one belongs to anyone out here. And if you're talking about Ayanna Maddox, she's my lawful wife. Got the papers to prove it." Kane's eyes narrowed. The smile vanished. "Your wife? How convenient," he said, venom lacing every word. "A woman runs from me, ends up on your land, and suddenly she's married within days." Right then, Ayanna stepped out of the house, the certificate clenched in her hand. The wind tugged at the edges of the paper, but her grip never wavered. Kane saw her, and his face turned to stone. "What have you done, Ayanna?" he asked, his voice smooth but dripping with threat. "I took control of my own life," she answered, walking forward without fear until she stood beside Cole. "I never gave you my word. You tried to force me. I escaped, and now I'm legally his wife." Kane stepped forward, fury building, but Cole moved instantly, blocking his path. "One more step," Cole warned, "and you're trespassing with hostile intent. That carries consequences." Kane stopped, but that crooked smile crept back. "Smart man, cowboy," he said softly. But listen close. I've got influence, partners, power. I can make life in this county real hard for the both of you." "Threats don't mean much to me," Cole shot back. "And your power doesn't put you above the law." Kane's gaze dropped to the certificate in Ayanna's hand. His jaw tightened, rage barely contained. "This ain't over," he muttered. "You embarrassed me, in front of everyone." Then his eyes snapped back to Cole. "And you stuck your nose where it didn't belong." "My wife is my business," Cole said coldly. "Now I suggest you leave my land." Kane mounted his horse, slow and deliberate, every movement carrying warning. His eyes never left Ayanna. "Enjoy your marriage while it lasts," he said under his breath, before turning away with the Kane riders. When they disappeared into the horizon, Ayanna let out a shaky breath. "This is going to get worse," she said plainly. "I know," Cole replied, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "But you're not alone anymore. We face this together." That night, Cole didn't sleep. He sat on the porch, rifle resting beside him, eyes fixed on the dark stretch of desert. Around midnight, he heard soft footsteps. Ayanna stepped out, wrapped in a shawl. "You can't stay up all night," she said, sitting beside him. "Someone's got to keep watch," he answered. "Then we'll keep watch together." She picked up the rifle without asking. "I can track movement in the dark," she added quietly. "Hear things most folks miss." Cole looked at her, surprised, but impressed. "Where'd you learn that?" "From my people. Among the Red Sky people, women don't sit around waiting to be saved," she said simply. "We learn to survive, to fight, to protect what matters." Cole studied her. "And what matters to you now?" Ayanna glanced back at the house. "This place, it's more than shelter. It's the first place I've felt peace in years." A faint smile touched Cole's face. "Glad to hear it. 'Cause now, it's your home." They sat there in silence for 2 more hours. No words, but something had shifted. Cole no longer saw her as a stranger. She was strong, sharp, and she was bringing life into a place that had long been empty. As dawn crept in, Ayanna finally spoke again. "There's something you should know." Cole turned to her. "Silas Kane didn't want to marry me out of pride. My people, the Red Sky people, we hold rights to land rich with water. Land he wants for his business. If I married him, he could claim it." Cole understood immediately. "So this was never about you. It was about power." "Exactly," she nodded. "But now that I'm married to you, those rights are protected. He didn't just lose a woman. He lost a valuable deal. That makes him dangerous." "He won't back off," Cole said, his voice firm. "No," she agreed. "He won't." Cole stood up, his expression hardening with resolve. "Then we get ready. If he wants a fight, he'll get one. But he won't be facing one person anymore." Ayanna rose beside him. Now there were 2. "Then we get ready," Cole Maddox said, his voice steady as iron. "If he wants a war, he'll get one. But he won't be facing just one person anymore. This time there are 2 of us, and we've got more to lose than he does." Ayanna rose to her feet. For the first time, she reached for Cole's hand without hesitation. "Thank you for not regretting helping me." "I never will," he replied, tightening his grip around hers. "You're the best decision I've ever made." In that moment, something shifted between them. What had started as an arrangement, cold, practical, had broken apart. In its place, something real had taken root. A bond, not just of necessity, but of soul and land. Meanwhile, back in town, Silas Kane didn't sleep. He was already planning his next move, and it wouldn't be a gentle one. 2 weeks passed under a tense, uneasy calm. By day, Cole and Ayanna worked hard. But the nights were different. They began to share stories by the fire, to laugh. The distance between them started to fade. One evening, Ayanna cooked a meal from her childhood, roasted meat seasoned with desert herbs alongside fresh cornbread. Cole took a bite and closed his eyes. This is something else. I've never tasted anything like it. Ayanna smiled, proud. My grandmother taught me. She used to say food made with care can heal both body and spirit. Cole looked at her, something deeper in his gaze. You made this with more than care. Ayanna lowered her eyes, a faint blush rising. I made it with attention and respect. Before Cole could say anything more, a sharp sound cut through the night. Wrong. Out of place. The horses in the stable stirred violently, snorting, stomping, restless. Cole was on his feet in an instant, grabbing the lantern. Stay inside, he said firmly. But Ayanna was already behind him. I told you, I'm not helpless, she replied, her tone sharp. They stepped out into the yard together. The full moon cast silver light across the ranch, and the silence felt heavier with every step. The horses were still agitated. Something was wrong. Ayanna crouched low, brushing her fingers against the dirt. She closed her eyes for a moment, then whispered. Fresh tracks. 3, maybe 4. They've surrounded the house. A chill ran down Cole's spine. Silas Kane. As if summoned by the thought, a voice drifted out of the darkness. Maddox, let's be reasonable. Step out, and we'll talk like civilized men. Cole's jaw tightened. Even without seeing him, he knew that voice. We've already talked, Cole called back. There's nothing left to say. Oh, I think there is, Kane answered, his voice smooth, but edged with something sharp. I've been asking around. That marriage of yours came together awfully fast. Cole and Ayanna exchanged a look. She was breathing faster. He stood rigid, like a rope pulled tight. Our marriage is legal, Cole shouted. Witnesses, papers, everything done right. Paper can be questioned, Kane replied from the shadows. And witnesses, well, people remember things differently when the price is right. A flicker of anger tightened in Cole's chest. Kane wasn't wrong. Money and influence could drag this out for years. But Ayanna stepped forward, unshaken. Listen carefully, Silas, she said, her voice firm as stone. You can try to break our marriage in court, but that'll take months, maybe years. And in that time, I remain his wife. Your plan to take control of my people's land, it's already failed. Silence. Then Kane's voice changed, no longer smooth, now raw. Then I suppose I'll have to take a more direct approach. Ayanna didn't move. You know how things go out here, Kane continued. Accidents happen, fires, spooked livestock, fences that don't hold. Would be a shame if something happened to your dear husband. He paused, then added with venom. And a widow? Much easier to deal with than a wife. Cole's blood surged. You just threatened me. I didn't threaten anything, Kane replied lightly. Just saying life out here is dangerous, unpredictable. In that instant, Ayanna moved. She grabbed a smooth stone from the ground and, without hesitation, hurled it straight towards the voice. The rock cut through the air. Then a sharp cry of pain broke the silence. She'd hit him. That was your warning, Silas, Ayanna shouted. Next time, it won't be a stone. Her voice rose, fierce and unyielding. I know 50 ways to stop a man without killing him, and 50 more that will. Don't you dare underestimate what a woman from the Red Sky people will do to defend her home. There was movement in the dark. Hurried steps, hushed voices, branches snapping. The Kane riders were retreating. Kane's voice came again, farther now, thick with anger. This isn't over. Next time, you won't see me coming." The sound of hooves faded into the night. Silence returned. Cole's heart was still pounding like a drum. "That was incredible," he said, staring at her. "How do you know where he was?" Ayanna shrugged slightly. "My people don't just listen with their ears. He gave himself away." Cole let out a quiet breath, a faint smile breaking through despite everything. "I'm glad you're on my side." "I always will be," Ayanna answered, and they both knew. Those weren't empty words. They went back inside, though neither expected to sleep. They sat together in the dim light, already planning, because they both understood one thing. Silas Kane would be back. But now they weren't just two strangers tied by necessity. They were partners. They were home to each other. "We can't keep waiting for the next attack," Cole said through clenched teeth. "We need to get ahead of him." "I agree," Ayanna said thoughtfully. "Silas plays dirty because he can't beat us legally, but if we show the town who he really is, he'll lose his power, his allies." Cole nodded slowly. "But we need proof." "He made threats last night," she said, biting her lip. "If we can get him to say those things in front of witnesses—" "A trap," Cole finished, his eyes lighting up. The plan began to take shape. They spent the next hour working through every detail. It was risky, needed perfect timing, a bit of luck, but it was their best shot. "This could go real bad," Cole warned. "I know," Ayanna said, taking his hand again, "but I'd rather fight and risk everything than live in fear." Cole looked down at their hands, intertwined. In just a few weeks, the woman who had arrived as a stranger had become something more. His equal. His partner. His... what exactly? "Ayanna," he murmured. "This started as a practical arrangement," Cole Maddox began, his voice low. Ayanna cut him off, her words trembling with emotion. "It's not just an arrangement anymore. It's real." Cole nodded slowly. "It is." She stepped closer, her eyes searching his. "When Silas Kane threatened you, I felt something I've never felt before. Just the thought of losing you." Her voice faltered. Cole lifted his free hand and gently brushed her cheek. "You're not going to lose me, and I'm not losing you. We'll face this, like real husband and wife." And then it happened. Their first kiss. Not formal, not careful. It was something deeper, built from quiet nights, shared work, long glances, and unspoken understanding. A kiss filled with promise. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "Tomorrow," Cole said softly, "we set the plan in motion." "Tomorrow," Ayanna echoed, her voice steady with resolve. They didn't sleep that night. Not from fear, but because there was too much to prepare. And for the first time in a long while, neither of them felt alone. The plan was simple, dangerous, but simple. Cole would send word to Silas Kane through Eli Turner, asking for a peaceful meeting at noon in the town square, a place full of people, vendors, families, and Judge Orrin Hale, who took his lunch there every Friday. Morning came with clear skies and a cool breeze. Cole and Ayanna prepared carefully, going over every detail. He buttoned up his best shirt. "You sure about this?" he asked. "Sure," she replied firmly. "Silas Kane needs to be stopped. Not just for us, for anyone he might hurt next." They reached town an hour early. Cole greeted the dustfall folk with calm ease, while Ayanna slipped quietly toward the judge's office. Judge Orrin Hale, a fair man in his 50s, listened without interrupting. "If he makes threats out in the open," the judge said, "I can take him in, but I need to hear it myself. I'll be nearby." At exactly noon, Silas Kane rode into town with two of his cane riders. He looked confident, like a man who believed he had already won. They met in the center of the square. Around them, townsfolk pretended to browse goods, fruit, tools, newspapers. But every eye was watching, Maddox, Kane said with a smug tone. Your message surprised me. Thought maybe you'd finally come to your senses. I came to hear your offer, Cole replied, loud enough for everyone to hear. You said you wanted to settle this like civilized men. Kane smiled, certain of himself. Simple, he said. You annul that marriage. Let Ayanna go, and I'll pay you. Let's say $10,000, enough to expand that ranch of yours. A murmur rippled through the crowd. It was a heavy sum. You offering to buy my wife? Cole said, as if considering it. Sounds a lot like purchasing a person. Kane let out a dry chuckle. Don't be dramatic. It's business. She holds rights to land I need. You've got a ranch that could use investment. Everybody wins. Except me. Ayanna stepped forward from the shadows, her voice cutting clean through the air. Kane stiffened at the sight of her. Except the woman you treat like property, she continued, like something to be bought and sold. Kane's face hardened. Now, sweetheart, this doesn't concern you. The men are talking. The men? Ayanna repeated, her voice rising. You mean the kind who threaten to burn homes? Who talk about accidents when they don't get what they want? Kane stepped toward her, threatening. Watch your mouth. Or what? She shot back. You'll do what you promised the other night? Burn our house while we sleep? The square fell silent. Every eye turned to Silas Kane. His face flushed, first with embarrassment, then with contained fury. I never said that, he growled. But even he knew his voice lacked conviction. I heard you, a voice called from the crowd. It was Hank Cutter, one of the wedding witnesses. 3 days ago, Hank continued, I heard you in the supply store talking to your men about handling the Maddox ranch, permanently. Me too, added Wyatt Boone, stepping up beside him. He was asking how much it'd cost to take care of a problem that wouldn't go away. Kane looked around. He knew it. He'd lost control. His 2 men started backing away, uneasy. Then Judge Orrin Hale stepped forward from the crowd, his badge catching the sunlight. Silas Kane, the judge said calmly. I've heard enough. Threats of violence, attempted bribery, conspiracy to cause harm. He pulled out a pair of cuffs. You're under arrest. This is ridiculous, Kane snapped. I've got lawyers, connections. Your lawyer can come see you in a cell, Judge Hale cut in, snapping the cuffs shut. And your connections won't help you when there's a dozen witnesses. As Kane was dragged away, shouting empty threats, the square erupted into murmurs and chatter. Cole and Ayanna stood there, almost stunned that their plan had worked. Wyatt rushed forward, pulling Ayanna into a tight embrace. You were brave, girl. We all knew that man was trouble, but nobody had the guts to stand up to him. I wasn't alone, Ayanna said, taking Cole's hand. I had my husband with me. Judge Elias Rook stepped forward as well, a warm smile on his face. Cole, he said, giving a small nod. When I married you 2 a month ago, I had no idea I was bringing together 2 people so clearly meant for each other. What you did today, that took real courage. The weeks that followed changed the town for good. Silas Kane was put on trial and sentenced to 5 years behind bars. His operations were investigated, one after another collapsing under the weight of corruption and fraud. There were too many skeletons to hide. The town finally breathed again. The Dustfall folk felt lighter. Many celebrated his fall. And for Cole and Ayanna, peace finally came. With the threat gone, they turned their attention to building something real. Together. One afternoon, 3 months after the trial, they worked side by side in the garden Ayanna had insisted on planting. Between blooming cactus and wild desert herbs, rows of tomatoes, squash, and bright flowers stretched across the soil. You know something? Cole said, wiping sweat from his brow. That night you showed up at my door. I never imagined you'd change my life the way you did. You regret it? Ayanna asked, a playful smile tugging at her lips, though she already knew the answer. Not for a second, he said, pulling her gently into his arms. I thought I was giving you a roof. Turns out, you gave me a home, a partner, something real. And me, Ayanna whispered, resting her head against his chest. I came here running, empty, just trying to survive. But I found more than that. I found purpose. And I found love. They kissed softly beneath a sky painted in orange and violet. That night, sitting at the table that now truly belonged to both of them, Cole raised a glass of water. A toast, he said, to unexpected beginnings that turn into the best kind of stories. And to finding home in people, not just in places, Ayanna added. And to having the courage to turn an arrangement into something real, Cole finished. Their glasses met with a quiet clink. In that simple moment lived their entire story. Two lonely souls who through storms and danger found not just shelter, but something deeper, something lasting. Months later, travelers passing by the Maddox Ranch would often speak of the couple who worked in perfect harmony, the cowboy who opened his home, and the Apache woman who brought life, strength, and love into it. And when folks asked them the secret to their happiness, they always gave the same answer, with the same quiet smile. Sometimes the best decisions you'll ever make are the ones you make just by helping someone, expecting nothing in return. The ranch flourished, filled with laughter, shared labor, and honest love. And on quiet desert nights, beneath a sky heavy with stars, Cole and Ayanna would sit side by side on the porch, hands entwined, grateful for the storm that brought them together, and the courage that kept them there. Their story became legend, a tale of how a marriage born out of necessity turned into the truest love the town had ever known.